Our next presentation is a case study looking at how lithium forklift batteries can be innovatively reused in solar energy storage. Maxim Khabur is the Director of Marketing representing OneCharge, a manufacturer of lithium industrial batteries. And Maxim is also a chairman of the Advanced Energy Council, representing a group of companies through the Materials Handling Industry Association. Welcome, Maxim.
Hello, and thanks for having me. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to present the case. Alessandro, thank you so much for the great intro, all the questions that you've mentioned. I just kept referring to my presentation about the reality of how things are actually developing and how the batteries can be repurposed. So my name is Maxim. I work as a marketing director for OneCharge, that is the manufacturer of lithium batteries for forklifts. We as an organization, as a manufacturer, we focus only on material handling industry, and that is forklifts, tugs, personnel carriers, all the off-highway electric vehicles that are used in the industry. You don't need license plates to go out with this vehicle on the road, but you can't actually do it on the off-highway. So since we started production 6 years ago, all our batteries are still in the field, and not many of them are coming back. They serve, they operate for maybe 7-10 years, so we don't see a big influx of used batteries coming back. But some batteries do come back because of various under various conditions. I'll talk about that later. And we start to think what to do. So obviously recycling and repurposing are key to dispose of the old batteries. And we just got a few first examples of and the glimpse of the future. So in a nutshell, what I'm going to talk about today is just give you a high view picture of the repurposed forklift battery waste and reduce waste and support energy transition. In what way? Lithium batteries continue to support the energy transition and experience an exponential growth in demand. We see a lot of battery manufactured today, but it is a hockey stick into the future with EVs, industrial vehicles, electronics, power tools, you name it. Lithium batteries are going to be produced en masse, and there will be more and more of them. So repurposing them plays a big role into how we are getting batteries at all, because there's clear an indication that there will be some bottlenecks in the manufacturing, both on the mining and the refining and production levels. So repurposing can be an option and is an option, and all the companies should definitely explore it, and the market actually supports it. So the benefits include the reduction of waste. So obviously the battery which is not going to recycling and it's not going to the waste reduces waste. And more than that, repurposed lithium batteries are cheaper than new batteries, and in this way it reduces the cost of the energy storage in case it's going into renewable electricity generation systems, like in this case I'm going to talk about, and making energy transition cheaper and faster. Well, faster because it is cheaper. So we probably, all of you know the story that the solar and wind generation is not going fast enough without the subsidies. And the reason is because the 1 kilowatt hour generated by solar and wind is more expensive than 1 kilowatt hour generated by coal or propane. And this is not so anymore. And since the economic incentive is there, this push by the cheaper batteries is really important for the adoption. So these are the main benefits: less waste, less cost for the energy, and faster for the renewable energy production, and faster adoption of solar and wind. So with this, let's move into the case. As I said, the increasing production of lithium batteries due to rising demands in various industries drove the cost down. For the last 10 years, the cost has been continually growing down tenfold, from more than $1,000 per kilowatt hour to about just over 150 and 137 in 21. And the year 2022 was the first year when the cost of kilowatt hour per lithium, the cost per kilowatt hour for lithium batteries has seen an upward trend. That was the first year, and the last year, actually, 2022. And we saw a huge spike in lithium prices, up maybe 600% in the mid-year, sometime about July, and then the cost went down significantly. So this was hopefully one-time spike. The cost of other critical materials like nickel and cobalt also spiked last year, and they came down as well. Anyways, the cost per kilowatt hour increased, and this is the indication that there is this represents a problem for the adoption of EVs and electrification of industry as well. So to fight the rising cost, there should be a solution. So can recycling represent such a solution? And according to Wood Mackenzie analysis, it cannot. This analysis says that the supply in lithium, cobalt, and nickel are constituted or presented by recycled materials will only constitute 5% by 2030. This is obviously not enough, and this analysis is based on lower numbers of used lithium batteries will start accumulating by 2030. It means that all the EVs manufactured today and tomorrow will still be in use. And the cycle life of EV batteries is about 10 to 15 years, and it is growing. And the secondary supply will not have a major share. So just looking at our batteries, I can say that, yeah, it feels like this analysis has a point. So we at OneCharge advocate for repurposing rather than recycling of battery materials. Looking at the EV market, on which I'm not a specialist because I'm concentrated on the industrial side of things, we can see that the rising average age of the car is now at a record high at 12.5 years. This is partly an economic situation, partly because the cars are getting better. The cars just run and run and run. And when someone decides to sell a Tesla battery, it's going to cost, the price on the Tesla's auction battery is about 12.5K. And this is going to be almost a dead battery. People still buy it. And it is not for repurposing, it's for the actual use. So lots of EV batteries will continue to be used on the road, even with the diminished range and the loss of 50% of capacity. They're still perfectly usable for just shorter runs, and people will be happy to buy a cheap electric car and continue to use it. And we have seen here in the US a rise of different startups using used EV batteries to power anything from classic cars to boats to flying cars potentially, and all sorts of machinery. And since their business is based on used batteries, they are driving the price of the used batteries higher than the new batteries. And this is nuts, but people are expecting a big influx of these batteries, and that's why they're starting the businesses based on that, on repurposing these batteries, and they expect their capacity. They expect the inventory to increase hugely with the influx of used materials projected into a few years into the future. And I think their best bet would be the buses, commercial trucks, and off-highway electric vehicles like forklifts, like those batteries that we do. And they're best positioned for repurposing. Unlike EVs, the businesses are using their batteries for a certain amount of time, and then they prefer to buy the new ones. And that's understandable because their capacities and capabilities of this equipment has to match the exact criteria. So businesses cannot allow to use the equipment with a diminished capacity, even by 25%. So that's not acceptable. They have to keep up the standards of productivity and efficiency. So the batteries will be replaced with new. So this is the main source of used batteries for these companies which plan to use these used batteries. So repurposing lithium batteries reduces waste and lowers recycling energy requirements, obviously. So instead of recycling, repurposing is a cleaner and better way to use to reduce waste and wasted energy too. OneCharge lithium cells are repurposed at Blue Water Battery Logistics. This is the company we partnered with to go and sort through the used cells. So Blue Water assesses battery condition and assesses geographical location and repurposing expertise of the companies they supply the used cell. This is the flow of the current repurposing process that we have seen in action. And this is an actual case of one of the batteries that we had received. So the battery from the forklift goes to the sorting facility, which is a Blue Water Battery Logistics company, and they provide the thorough estimation of the battery state of health, and usage data is really crucial. So this is one of the major steps in repurposing of the batteries. So in this particular case I'm talking about, the battery was used at a food packing facility in Washington state. And the battery was a demo project. So the company was estimating their interest in these batteries, switching from lead acid batteries, and this was just one of a kind. And after a few months, they decided, yeah, we like the data, we like what we see, the performance is higher, so we will switch to lithium batteries, the full fleet. And by the way, we will switch to more powerful battery, because they saw the data and they saw that the more powerful battery provides more benefits, it will serve longer, etc., etc. So this one was returned to the shop. The cells were still perfectly usable, but they can't go into a new battery, obviously. So it had to be repurposed. And this is where Blue Water Battery Logistics stepped in. They evaluated the cells and they sent them further on down the or up the value chain to higher wire. And they also work with other companies like Smartville. Both of these companies are assembling energy storage systems for solar usage and marine power and small agricultural facilities, agricultural sites with solar arrays, which not necessarily have the money and the funds to install the new systems, but they're perfectly fine with using the used batteries for their systems. And one of the projects right now launched by Highwire is the city of Phoenix, where they installed this solar panel generation system supported by energy storage made of used lithium cells in the park, in one of the public parks, to support the lighting there. Another example was with the University of California in San Diego, and I'll show you some pictures later on. So I've already told you that the crucial step in repurposing of the batteries is the evaluation of the state of health and the thorough tests that need to be run on a battery each time the battery comes to this sorting facility. And it constitutes actually a big chunk of the cost of the company, which increases the cost of batteries. So to further drive down the cost and to improve the whole system and make it work perfectly, lots of people, us included, are advocating for battery passport. So that would be a huge improvement into the whole system, so that everyone owning the battery continues to accumulate the data on the battery usage, and this is not something that technically challenging. In our case, for example, in case of forklift batteries, there's a BMS, battery management system, which constantly accumulates all the data on each of the cells continually through its whole cycle life. And we know exactly how many cycles the battery has operated, and we know the energy throughput, we know all the parameters of state of health of the battery and state of charge at each moment in time. So we can provide, and we do accumulate, we have this data, and we can obviously provide it if there is a unified passport or unified system for providing this data. And we advocate for introduction of these passports, and hopefully this will be the thing of the future. Well, it's also for the EVs, it's serving a big problem of the used EV market, because when you buy an electric car, you always you have no way to say what's the state of the battery. So the dashboard is not advanced enough in these cars, and the data on the battery is somewhere hidden in the electronics. So you have as a driver or as an owner, you have no way to access this data. And if there is a regulation, if there is a mandatory passport on all of these batteries, it becomes so much easier for the EV owner selling the car and buying the car. It will be so much more smooth and straightforward. The car is not a lemon. Here's the passport, deal's done. So these are the examples of the refurbished, well, that's the wrong word, of repurposed and remanufactured lithium batteries made by Highwire. So as I've said, they're purchasing the used cells from manufacturers like OneCharge. So they receive them from Blue Water Battery Logistics, which is a sorting company. And these cells could come from anywhere. Majorly, they're coming from the industrial and commercial use, not from the EVs. And one of the reasons is that because the cells are bigger, the 100 amp hours or around that size cells, rectangular, they're easy to set up in new array, and they're used in off-grid refrigerators and lighting for individual use, or for smaller companies like smaller farms, agricultural use of solar, RVs, boats, and home backup power. Some of the sites were not even electrified before that. They just didn't have the grid. And since Roosevelt time, this is the first time that electricity continues to go into some rural areas. And now solar is becoming an answer, and this is just great. This is the installation photos from the city of Phoenix, where they installed lighting in South Mountain Public Park. So it's now lighted by solar. The project has started this June, so it's quite new. And another example is from the University of California, San Diego, which has installed a 500 kilowatt hour solar system, storage built of used lithium cells. So they reduce their peak loads and they provide up to 48 hours of emergency backup power for the university. And the system works with the rooftop solar array of 200 kilowatt hour capacity. So these are the benefits of repurposing lithium industrial batteries. So as I've said, they reduce waste and contribute to the circular economy. The used cells can work reliably for another 10 years after their planned operations of 7 to 10 years in the main application. So there's fewer emissions and lower recycling pressure, low pressure on recycling, and the adoption of renewable energy is accelerated with a lower price of these batteries as for energy storage. And the used EV batteries contribute to larger scale projects and support domestic supply chains. As I've said, there's not enough batteries for all the needs, and repurposing can satisfy and just help with adoption. Not less important, the new businesses are sprouting all around. All these startups using the new batteries are creating their paying jobs, so that's good. A little bit about OneCharge strategy on environmental, social, and governance. So we adhere to this 4R approach: reduce, reuse, repurpose, and recycle. So we do all of it. We reduce the use of energy with lithium batteries compared to other power sources. We help our customers reduce the use of power, reduce the energy, and it comes with a reduced carbon footprint as well. We reuse parts as we can. We disassemble the used batteries and we reuse cases and cables and whatever electronics we can, and we repurpose the cells. So as you've just seen this case, and the rest just goes to recycling. One word about the Advanced Energy Council. So we are part of the material handling organization, material handling industry.org. You're welcome to check this out. This is a huge warehousing and logistics, the biggest industry organization in the US. And many companies manufacturing electric equipment and electric batteries are part of this organization. And we set up an Advanced Energy Council there to promote the interests and the sustainability of the manufacturers and the sustainable use of these batteries across the industry. That is all. This is my contact information if you need it sometime into the future. Thank you.
Very good, Maxim. We appreciate the real world case study on reusing forklift batteries for solar energy storage. Now we have time for questions. I can remind you all to post any questions on the platform. Maxim, I noticed you've actually posted a question for Alexandra.
Oh, yes, I did.
That's right. As regards the electricity generation in the US, it's not coming from identical sources. In some states, coal is switched. Some states, coal is still playing a key role. So switching to EV brings more emissions, not less. Do you include this problem in calculations? Any comments on that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Maxim. We do in our carbon impact assessments for the US and comparing the production of a domestically sourced produced EV battery, we factor in a weighted average of emission factors for the grid. So we take this into account, and ultimately, as I had mentioned, we still find that the biggest source of the carbon footprint is from manufacturing. The use of the vehicle itself kind of zeroes out the difference from a gas vehicle after about 2 or 3 years.
That's right. There's a lot of conversations about that very topic in our life cycle assessment conference, the automotive industry, in terms of how the EV is powered, where the electricity comes from. Maxim, what are the cost implications? I may have missed this. What are the cost implications for customers using these repurposed forklift batteries?
Mm-hmm.
Or energy
yeah.
Compared to normal kind of energy storage?
I don't have statistics on the market, but the anecdotal evidence that I have suggests that it's about 20% of the used batteries would constitute about 20% of the cost compared to the 100% of the new battery. So this is what I'm saying, what I'm seeing, and this goes for smaller battery setups. So I believe that with the bigger setups, it will be the cost will be even smaller. So I would anticipate about 10 to 15% compared to the cost of a new battery setup. So you would save 90% or up to 90% of the battery storage, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's right. Alessandra, have you done any work looking into the anticipated ROI for funding a recovery infrastructure for investors? Have you looked into that?
We are actually actively conducting that type of analysis as part of the our circularity initiative. So we've started with understanding the investment gaps, as I had shared, but ultimately what we aim to do is exactly that: model the ROI and understand how can we distribute the value of the economic value obtained from a more circular economy across the value chain, and ultimately how does that benefit the consumer or local communities too. So yep, this is one of the next steps or future work that we're pursuing.
Thank you. Maxim, in terms of scalability, how viable is the model of reusing lithium batteries and forklift trucks across the industry? How could it be scaled up?
Well, as I've said, there are maybe dozens of startups operating already on the market, scouting for the new batteries. As far as I know, this company, Smartville, has reached an agreement with the insuring companies of EVs, so that they would receive all the batteries of totaled cars. The car which is totaled means it was an accident, and the insurance company decided it's not worth to repair it, and they sent it to wherever, to waste. So it just shows that there's a huge demand for these batteries. There's the anticipation for the batteries coming back from at the end of their active life. But frankly, in my industry, I don't see it too much at the moment. It's just because the batteries are still young enough to be all to be in the field. We expect the flood, so to say, to start in about 3 to 5 years from now, and it will be accelerating ever since that, because of the ramp up of production happening right now. So we see so many production facilities sprouting across the US, and the US is just trying to catch up with China and on par with Europe, more or less. So I don't know how it is. Frankly, I'm not aware of the situation with the repurposing in the repurposing field in China. There should be a lot of companies starting to work with them as well, just because of the sheer scale of operations. So China is still 70% of the world production capacity, and they should be 70% of the world's repurposed batteries too, I guess, sometime into the future.
Did you say whether there are any significant logistical challenges or expenses, say, the movement?
Yeah, I think one of the bottlenecks would be this evaluation step of the used battery. How we, because there's a need to test, to properly test and assess each and every cell of a big pack. And we have hundreds of cells in each pack. So it takes lots of time, it takes lots of efforts, and it just brings up the cost. So for the benefit of all the market participants, the battery passport, so to say, or all the data on the battery, which is available, by the way, all the battery management systems are collecting this data. It's just that the company are not required to share it, and there's no regulation on what type of battery they collect, so there's no compatibility, and there's no mandatory data which has to be collected. And I think that's one of the challenges in repurposing process.
Yeah. Question for Alessandro. Have you looked into, because in Europe there's a talk of building this ecosystem that's going to provide potential revenue streams and new entrepreneurial opportunities, new companies, new spin-offs. Have you looked into that yourself and tried to quantify the potential revenue streams from a well-developed raw material ecosystem?
We haven't specifically estimated the potential revenue streams from new businesses within the ecosystem. I think it's a good kind of nod, though, to one of RMI's kind of affiliate organizations, their derivative, which is an incubator accelerator for energy trend startups and companies. There are certainly battery or battery-related recycling companies that participate or are part of their derivative cohort that our circularity initiative can, I won't say access, but like is aware of. And so that sort of relationship helps us keep an eye out for startups globally, have our finger on the pulse regarding what activities are opportunities on the horizon that we can plan for, but we through our own initiative are not yet looking at what how to, as you said, how to estimate the potential revenue there. But it is a good opportunity, and one of the sort of foundational principles we advocate for is understanding how in promoting, uplifting, innovating new businesses, new business ideas, we can actually encourage and foster more representation across the value chain for new businesses from communities. How do local communities that are affected by these production processes actually play into it from an innovative standpoint versus just, maybe historically how they have participated? As someone who lives in Detroit, I see that a lot. How can we start thinking beyond the traditional automotive kind of paradigm, and what are the opportunities for technology that can exist here, for instance? So there's a lot of great avenues we can take that. So yeah, it's a great question and a great opportunity.
Excellent. And have you had much feedback, Maxim, from customers that are using these forklift batteries and how they actually apply them to their own ESG goals?
Well, as it stands now, they're just using them. Then they're just happy to improve the operating efficiency, and compared to the older power sources, this is a genuine improvement. And the operators say, compared to the old lead-acid battery, it just drives better. So what they mean is these lithium batteries do not lose voltage with the diminished capacity. Sorry, not capacity, the charge. So the regular batteries would lose voltage as the battery discharges into the shift. And now with the lithium batteries, the voltage just stays exactly the same with the discharge of the battery, and then it drops suddenly. So that doesn't happen, of course, because the battery would say, "Hey, go charge me." But overall experience is better. There's no need to maintain this battery. They don't have to top up the electrolyte like they used to do. And besides, these batteries just last you through a few shifts compared to a necessary change of the battery or replacement of the battery with a new with a fresh battery during the shift. So nothing of that. And what's most important, these batteries just last longer. So compared to cycle life of, let's say, 2 to 3 years, now they go 5, 7 years and beyond. And this is just a huge help for the operation costs. Drives down the operation cost, and obviously there's way less waste.
Yeah.
So the less you produce, the longer you use it. I'm personally a hater of waste. I just love my old jeans and my old car, and the longer it serves me, the more I love it. So I'm very happy to see that our products are repurposed, and they just they're not thrown away.
Excellent. Okay, so 2 very interesting conversations there and presentations. One conceptual and macro.